Okay, it smells so good. I'm so excited. Pulling it up and then laying the dough right there over top of, oh, and wait until we cut it. That's probably the hardest part. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm a detail girly. All right, today I'm gonna show you how to make the best sourdough bread you have probably had ever in your entire life. And the secret ingredients, not really that secret, is this chili crunch oil. So I'm gonna show you how we do it step by step. Let's go. All right, for this recipe, I'm just using my basic sourdough recipe. So we're gonna start with 365 grams of warm water. Into that, I'm gonna add 125 grams of active starter. So what I want you to see is how much this starter has grown. And a lot of times people will tell you that it just needs to double, it just needs to pass a float test, but it's not good enough. That's not it. You need a very strong starter that triples, if not quadruples. If you're tired of trying, you can purchase some of Glorilla. She is a beast, and I'll put that link down in the description. So 125 grams of starter, and you can see how thick it is. If it's runny, that is not a good sign. Next, we're gonna just mix the starter and water together until you get what looks like a milky liquid. We're gonna add our flour. We're gonna add 500 grams of strong bread flour. I use King Arthur Sir Lancelot, and I am able to get it here locally at one of our Amish bulk food stores, but I've definitely seen it online as well. Okay, right at 500 grams. And we're gonna add 12 grams of salt. So now comes your arm workout. Mixing this by hand it's a lot, and it's a labor of love. It's definitely going to want to mix really, really well. Like, we are looking for no clumps, like no visible specks of dry flour. So it should take you a few minutes to get it thoroughly mixed. You want to make sure like you're scraping the edge of the bowl so that you're not missing any flour. I'm gonna take my bowl scraper now, just because I wanna kind of clean up the inside of the bowl, because eventually we're gonna have to pull this up with coil folds. So anything I can get away from the edge and get it looking a little bit cleaner, that would be better. So I'm just using my water, dipping that bowl scraper and just going all along the edges of the bowl. All right, so you wanna cover your dough and let it rest for 30 minutes, and then we'll begin our coil folds. So I have a proofing box from Broad & Taylor, and I have my dough in here at 79 degrees. It's not necessary whatsoever. It's just gonna make the whole process a little bit faster. So my timing may be a bit quicker than yours if the dough's a bit colder. So now we're gonna take the bowl scraper, and I'm just gonna do the same thing I did earlier where I was just loosening it away from the edges. And then I'm gonna show you how to do one set of coil folds before we add the chili oil. Get my hands a little bit wet. You don't want them to be soaking wet. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna go underneath the dough, and I'm going to loosen it from the edge of the bowl, and I'm going to pull the dough up, and then I'm gonna let it fall back on top of itself. You don't want to be in there with your hands for very long, and if the dough starts to stick, you want to grab that water just a little bit again. So what you're thinking of doing is kind of creating a roll or a log where that dough's going over itself. So then I'm turning the bowl 1/4 turn, and then I'm going to do the same thing. And at this point it starts to get a little bit easier. You can start to see the dough getting a little bit smoother on the surface. So I'm going to turn it again, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now you can see it's getting tight. I'm going to pull the whole thing away. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is what I would call just kind of like kneading the dough against the bowl. And basically what I'm doing is just trying to create a tighter surface. And so essentially I'm just doing a whole bunch of coil folding. So each time just pulling that dough up against the bowl. So you can see just how much the dough has transformed just from one set of coil folds. All right, so 30 minutes have went by and we're getting ready to add the chili oil and the Parmesan. So this is my preferred method, is after the first or second coil fold. So I've got about 45 grams of Parmesan and 3 tablespoons altogether. So I'm just going to take that first spoonful and spread it right over top of the oil. And then I'm gonna sprinkle about 1/3 of that Parmesan cheese. For this part, you're doing a traditional stretch and fold. So pulling it up and then laying the dough right there over top of it. And then we're gonna add the next layer. Okay, we're gonna take another spoonful of the chili oil and we're just gonna layer it right over top. Just kind of spread it out. And then a little bit more of the Parmesan. And then I'm gonna wet my hand again and I'm gonna pull this layer over and cover that other chili oil and Parmesan. And then we're gonna do one more layer and try to cover the rest. You can see now it's kind of tight. What we want to do is get this dough back into a nice firm ball like we had before. So I am just going to, again, knead that dough against the edge of the bowl. Just trying to keep all of the chili oil and Parmesan on the inside. So I think that looks really good. We're just gonna wait another 30 minutes and then do another coil fold. All right, so we're just gonna do another coil fold. Again, with the wet hands. This time we're just gonna try to be a little gentler with the dough because we don't want to rip a hole in it and let those inclusions escape. When we turn the bowl, we're just gonna do a couple more. Really lift that dough up and set it back down on top of each other. On top of itself, not each other. We just don't want that dough to split and for those inclusions to come out. So that's all I'm gonna do and wait another 30 minutes. All right, so last set of coil folds. I'm just gonna still use wet hands, but I'm just gonna be really gentle with this one. Ooh. So right now, I would say the dough is looking really good. Honestly, probably gonna shape it in the next hour. That would be about 4 hours of bulk fermentation. Like I said earlier, this dough is in the proofing box, which is set to 79 degrees. So that's gonna make for pretty fast bulk fermentation. Also, I don't plan on baking this loaf until tomorrow. So I know that it's gonna be in the fridge for quite a long time. So I don't want to push it too far and then have it overproof. Because it's so warm, it's gonna take a long time to cool down in the fridge. So I'm gonna probably go a little bit shorter time than I would if I was gonna try to bake it today or like really early in the morning. So it's been just about 4 hours since we did the first initial mixing. So bread is ready. I prefer using a little bit of water rather than flour. Everything needs to be quick and swift movement. So basically I am just getting it unstuck from the counter. And all I want to do with that first shaping is get this dough into a ball. So you can kind of see here where it's opening up a little bit from the inclusions. So I really want to try to get that on the inside of the loaf. So then everything else I'm just pulling to the center, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to use the tension of the counter to pull turn, pull, and you don't want to do too much. So if I were to keep going, keep pulling and twisting and pulling and twisting, I could get a rip and then that dough would just deflate, and we do not want that at all. So now I'm just going to let this sit just like this for 30 minutes and then we'll get it into the Banneton. So now we're ready to finish our final shaping. So I'm just going to dust my Banneton with a little bit of rice flour. Rice flour you can easily get on Amazon, and the great thing about it is it's gluten-free, and if you kind of think of gluten, flour can still stick. So with the rice flour, it's gonna just come out of the Banneton super easy. With the final shaping, it should be a little bit less sticky. I'm still going to use just a little bit of water on my hands and on the bench scraper. This is what's going to be the top of your bread loaf. So this part is nice and smooth. It's not sticky at all. So we want to flip it over to make sure we keep it that way. So quick movements. Then I'm just going to try to keep it loose away from the countertop. And I'm going to shape it kind of in a square. And then I'm going to take the top and I'm going to fold it down, kind of like half of a letter fold. And then as these two pieces are a little loose from the countertop, I'm going to fold each side into the middle, being careful not to rip the dough. And then I'm just going to stitch all the way down to the bottom and then roll this into a log. Now, when you're working with inclusions like this, you do need to be a little bit more gentle. So you can see I'm just tightening that a little bit because we want that top to have some surface tension, because that's what's going to create that nice oven spring. But again, if you too much and that dough rips, splits, and you have no more pretty dough. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit for about 10 minutes and then I'm going to stitch it up. Okay, last step before going into the fridge, we're going to stitch the dough, and this is just going to help even more with that surface tension. And again, gently, we don't want to rip the dough, we just want to get it to stick together a little bit better. And then we're going to cover, and she's going to be in the fridge overnight, so we'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, just came back from the dentist. So I've got the oven preheating at 425 and I put the Dutch oven in there. You really wanna let it heat up for probably at least 45 minutes. So I will come back to show you the scoring, and super excited to get this loaf baked up. Everything is ready to go. All right, so I'm just going to get my stuff set up. So what I usually do is parchment paper. I have one of those bread slings, but I just don't prefer it. So I just take out like a nice little rectangle, and then I cut it to fit the Dutch oven a little bit better. So I just fold it in half and then cut an oval. And you want it to be big enough that the dough takes up the majority of the space, but yet you can still grab the edges so that you can take it and put it in the Dutch oven. The other thing I'm gonna need is rice flour. So I'm gonna dust the top of the loaf with the rice flour, and so you wanna do that if you want to see your design. All right, so let's get this beauty out of the fridge. I'm so excited for you guys to see. So she looks beautiful. You can kind of see where we did the stitching yesterday. So it's just like nice and smooth. And I just lay the parchment paper right over top of it and flip it over. So easy peasy. And I've already got a good amount of rice flour on there, so I'm not really gonna add a whole lot more. Spreading it around so it's even, so you don't have like any clumps anywhere. Then I use just a basic razor blade. There are plenty of tools, lambs, all the things, but I just find This is the easiest for me to hold, but this, we're gonna do our decorative score and then our expansion score. And I'll get this up a little bit closer so you can see. For the decorative score, you don't wanna go too deep. So I'm just gonna go 4 or 5 slashes. And you can tell that our loaf is proofed well because it's not just splitting, it's not collapsing, it's still nice and solid. The structure is really there. And so your deep expansion score is gonna go down about 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep. And so after I've went all the way down one time, I'm gonna go under this little edge, and that's gonna help create even more of an ear in our dough, hopefully. But yeah, that's it, simple scoring. And then we're gonna put her in the Dutch oven. So I love these gloves from Lannon, I believe it is, but I will link them in the description. It's just really nice to be able to have like the dexterity to use your hands. They don't completely lock out the heat, so you do get a little bit of heat transfer, but as long as I am just moving quickly, it's really not a big deal. All right, so it's gonna cook 30 minutes with the lid on, and we're at 425 degrees, and then we'll come back, take the lid off, and bake for another 15 minutes. Okay, it smells so good. I'm so excited. This is always like the nervous / exciting part of taking the lid off because you never really know what it's gonna be like, but oh, it looks so good. So I just wanna get the camera a little closer so you can see. All right, so 15 more minutes and that will just help it brown a little bit more on top, but overall, she's perfect. All right, she is all done. There just really is nothing more satisfying than seeing something like this and just knowing that you created it. Like, it's beautiful. Oh, and wait until we cut it. That's probably the hardest part, is having to wait, honestly, like 2 hours. That's probably how long you really should wait, just to make sure it completely cools down before we cut it. But, oh, I'm so excited. All right, time for the best part. We're gonna cut her open, but first I just want you to kind of see how it looks. Like from the side, you can see it's got a nice oven spring. It's not flat. It's not heavy and dense. It's really light and airy. I mean, you can hear that crunch, which is awesome. Overall, I mean, I'd say it's probably perfect. I mean, to toot my own horn, but I do love some sourdough. Okay, so let's get it cut open so you can see the inside and get a good crumb shot. Oh, it's so soft from the chili oil. That actually makes cutting it so much easier. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love like the marbling in there. It looks great. She is beautiful. I mean, check out that crumb. So you'll have to let me know what kind of recipes you would like to see, because I love sourdough. I bake several times a week. I make bread for family and friends and sell it. So I'm always wanting to try something new. I did goat cheese and honey not too long ago with some dried figs. I really love pistachio, chocolate chip, and cranberry. I think a cranberry walnut seems really good for like the holiday season. Anything that you would like to see or would like to see a recipe. I've also got a couple of recipes on my website, sweetandspicymacros.com. I can link that in the caption. And there's just some step-by-step things that I wish I had when I started sourdough. I really like detail, so I'm a detail girly. I could talk sourdough all day, so please leave any questions or comments that you have. I will answer all of them. But I mean, just look at this. I just love it. She is just so beautiful. So we got it all cut up. I would have to say of any loaf that I make, this is probably the one I get requested to make the most for people. And I think it just has to do with the texture a lot. Like as you saw cutting through it, it's like really, really easy to cut, but it's just amazing. So, like there's nothing better than fresh baked bread when it's so soft and it just falls apart. You can definitely get a bit of that spice, but I don't think it's too much. Even if you're not a big spicy person, I think you should try it. But I really appreciate you watching this video, and hopefully you're liking and subscribing as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.